Hello, everybody, all of my many, many fans and followers and freedom fighters out there in YouTube land. Anybody there? It's good to see you here. I am really lucky to have Alice is back. I'm so happy that Alice has been able to return to the podcast lately, and it's really great to have you on the panel again. I'm really super excited.
Thanks,
So,
Rhonda. It's great to
yeah,
be back with you.
well, what we all welcome you back. I won't speak for Jack. I mean, he has his own mind, but an own mind of his own. But
I do. According to who? Wait.
we'll,
No.
we occasionally we let him use it. Like
Mm.
now, go Jack.
If you can correlate that, like we were talking about earlier. We all missed Alice and glad that she's
Yeah, we
able to
really did.
come back and be a part of the crew. And
Yes. What
yeah,
happened to my damn? Oh my goodness! I must have accidentally closed my. I'll get it. It's okay. Oh, I did close it. Remember, I closed it because Jack. Do you remember why I closed it?
I don't know what you closed.
My slides.
I do not know why you closed your slides.
Oh, that's because you really don't pay very close attention when I'm saying
I
something.
wasn't looking. I'm sorry, I got distracted. My fault entirely. I'm sure.
It's all Jack's fault.
Of course.
When something goes wrong, even though he doesn't run this, I'm not on OBS, so he's not the one running this.
No, I'm not the stream. I'm not the streamer on this one.
Nobody's got access to any red buttons but myself, which is not necessarily, the way I would want it to be. It's just
Hey, I can talk to Zoe. She likes those red buttons and she'll push it. Trust me.
I know she does. This is telling me. So see, here's the thing. Presenter view. I really do enjoy this. So I was on the wrong. Never mind. It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. What I'm going to do, because I really want to make sure that I'm paying recognition to those that are always here, and I always appreciate it so much. Oh, good Lord. Might as just well be corroborate.
Collaborate.
So Kit the cat, the KK Katie, welcome. Welcome, and thank you for coming. It's Inexplicable Susan. It's nice to see you in the chat. I hope you're feeling better soon. Maybe after one more sleep, you'll be feeling better. And JD, it's great to see you. I'm so happy you're here. Anthony D, welcome, and thank you for coming. Let's see. Oh, Yoris, hello. Thank you for staying awake long enough to say hello, Yoris. I appreciate that. And who
There's
else?
Gala.
Gala. Welcome, Gala. It's so good to see you here. Thank you for coming. I hope. God, Jack, you got your kid doing it now. Thanks.
I would never.
Oh my God.
Would I do that? Come on.
I hate you.
I would never do that. Come on.
I had a wee silent giggle when I seen that.
Oh my God. Oh, so
I would never send him a text. I would never send him a text and say, you probably should cooperate some things on Rhonda's live. See if you can get her tickled.
Oh my God. You guys are crazy people.
The doc says, does this podcast take corruption?
Oh, jeez. No, it does not. Mose, these guys are all being really super silly, and I'm so sorry. Hi to you from all the way out in Pennsylvania, where I think it's really cold and miserable by now, right? Yeah, see, that's how you change a subject. Oh my goodness. So, but welcome to everybody in the chat. I'm really happy to have all of you here. I apologize for the reschedule from yesterday. I was having a rough day yesterday, so uh, I couldn't do it yesterday, and so I apologize. But I'm really grateful that you guys all showed up for us tonight. We're gonna start definitely some of these cases that Robert H. Macy, some of the most deplorable cases that he tried, and so. Well, Susan, and should we just wait until tomorrow, and so you can just be here then, if that's the well, at least she's feeling well enough to sit up in bed and use her phone or her laptop or whatever she's using.
Probably with the lights out. I mean,
Yeah. But what we're going to do is start. So I was just telling Jack, and I'm not sure if Alice had made it in quite yet, but I was just telling him that, covering these cases with uh, Bob Macy is
oh God.
is almost like trying to cover the different individual accusers in Daniel's case, because they're none of them are just simple and easy and straightforward. There's just so much damn corruption and twisting and lying and how, whatever you have to do to make the story fit your narrative, it's just, there's so much of that. And so as hard as I tried to do all three of the cases that I mentioned in one episode or one podcast, I just can't. It's not possible, because I am, to a fault, I feel like you need to have as much detail as you can. And I know in a lot of things that really, the detail doesn't really matter that much. But when we're talking about things like this, cases like this, if you miss disseminating just the wrong piece of information or the right piece of information, you can lose so much in your understanding of what just happened, kind of thing. At least that's my opinion. I do, maybe not other people, but I get lost. So
Well,
hopefully,
sometimes that one piece of information, it changes the nature and the course of how something's looked at and investigated or perceived.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And to me, they're all really important pieces of information. And so for
Sure.
me to try to narrow down what do I absolutely have to have. And so it's not necessarily the most upsetting case that Bob Macy did, but it certainly was one that brought tears to my eyes, because of the fact that it's 99.9% proven that this man, while he was a horrible man, had committed horrendous crimes in his past, was innocent of the crime that he was executed for. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know what
mean,
that says
there's a
about me,
difference.
but
There's a difference, though, Rhonda, in doing something wrong in your life and being punished for it, than not doing something and being sentenced to death for it.
right.
Yeah, he's no angel, so spend the rest of his life in jail without parole, never going to
Right.
see the light of day again, never going to step foot on the beach or anything like that ever again. Keep him in the jail. He did
Right.
not need to get sentenced to death, and that's what the death penalty needs to be looked at.
Right. Right. Um, so yeah, and there's going to be some well, when you see this case about Malcolm Rent Johnson, you'll see he was actually tried two different times for different crimes. But the narrative, what Bob Macy says and why he does what he does, is just horrific. It's just it pissed me off all over again, just reading through it again this last few days. So what we're going to do is, at least until Cherie gets here, I believe she's probably on a frozen tundra highway somewhere on her way home from in upstate New York. So rather than have her rush or hurry, if you can hear me, Cherie, just take your time. We got this. Um, we don't want you risking injury or anything like that, or anything worse. So, because I need you. So, anyway, couple of I'm going to need a reminder at the end. I probably should have started with it. But if there's somebody, one of my mods has a link that now that she's a mod, she can drop it herself if she wants, or get it to me in Discord so I can drop it, because I didn't get any links in my description today. So, but it has to do with Oklahoma City City Council meeting and death penalty. I can't think of what they call it, but shoot me that link in Discord again, if you will, so that I can grab it easy, and I'll start dropping it if you want to. Anyway, so we're going to start with, let me get to my slides here. We're going to start with, oops, I forgot it's doing stuff now. I should have tried to figure out how to change that back to normal. So the three cases that we're going to start out talking about, like I said, are Malcolm Rent Johnson. We're going to get to Robert Miller a little bit tonight too. I'm going to basically introduce you to Robert Miller, but we're going to cover we're going to cover the Malcolm Rent Johnson case. It was to me a horrible case. Johnson was sentenced to death for the 1981 rape and murder of a 76-year-old Ura Alma Thompson, and Johnson was executed on January 6th of 2000. So we will start with Malcolm Rent Johnson. I'll read the first slide, and then Jack, and then Alice. Do you want to go that way, you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. Okay, Malcolm Rent Johnson is the case that formed the team of DA Bob Macy and OCPD crime lab analyst Joyce Gilchrist. The two of them would go on to prosecute and testify to fabricated forensic evidence. More than 20 people were sentenced to death. 12 of them were executed. Johnson was a black man on parole from Illinois. He had already served 3 years and 8 months for rape, armed robbery, and burglary. See, I told you he was a bad guy. No doubting about that at all. The case was a brutal murder of 76-year-old Thompson. Thompson lived alone, and she was found by a nephew lying naked except for a pair of pantyhose, I believe it was, around on her or something, on her body or around her neck or something. And she was on her bedroom floor, and an autopsy determined that Thompson had been raped and asphyxiated. So I guess it was around her neck. Missing from the apartment were 2 diamond rings, a watch, a mink coat, and her apartment keys. Hours before Thompson's body was discovered, Johnson was arrested on a weapons charge at his home. His live-in girlfriend had given police permission to search Johnson's apartment, and they found items that were later identified as belonging to Ura Alma Thompson. Everybody have a drink of coffee or something while we wait. Okay, Jack.
That's some nice transition. I like it. Okay, here we go. After his arrest on the weapons charge, Johnson was interrogated by detectives Bill Cook and Tony Gregory, who were investigating the Thompson murder. Johnson told detectives that his brother, Rodney, had given him Thompson's belongings, denied any knowledge of her apartment key. Cook told Johnson that they were going to convict him because they had found his semen inside the victim. "You couldn't have found my semen in her," Johnson replied, "because I didn't come."
That's okay. What it says. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. The detectives took his statement as an admission of guilt, at least on the rape, but it's not so simple.
Sorry, Gala, I know it's really hard to hear your dad say things like that.
That's fine. No, it's fine.
Well, it's and that's just one of those little details that I wanted to put in here, and I did put some, but I just, it was getting to be too much, and so, but it really
Well,
does
I mean,
have a significance to the case.
it's either that word or one similar to it. Might as well just say the word and move on, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that got uncomfortable.
Johnson's statement raised several questions. Rather than asking questions, the detectives took the statement as a confession. The question certainly must be asked: what exactly did Johnson mean by "I didn't come"? Was he saying he raped Thompson but didn't climax? Then who deposited the semen in her vagina and all over the crime scene? Was Johnson saying that he didn't rape Thompson? Did that mean there was another suspect? Was this suspect responsible for the rape and or the murder? Was Johnson saying that detectives could not have matched a semen sample to him because he surrendered only hair and blood but no semen?
See, to reply to that, I mean, to me, when they said to him, "We found your semen inside of her," he's just like, in his mind, I didn't do it, so you didn't find anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly.
but
That answer he gave, sorry, Jack, that answer he gave is relevant to, he didn't rape her, he didn't, climax, and it's just something that he would have said to answer it all.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and clearly he knows something about that because, he's already been charged in the past with rape and murder, with rape. And so he had some sort of idea, at least from, and I don't recall what the time period was, but, from the first time that he was charged with it to now, who knows what, he just believed it was only found through the blood. And so he was like, oh, wait a minute, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
So, Malcolm, quote, Malcolm Renton Johnson was a really dumb guy, end quote, Bob Ravitz said. Bob Ravitz was his public defender. And I remember the very first time I read this, I was kind of offended, like, God, you jerk. But this also was back in the 80s. And so, people weren't as kind and respectful and politically correct as they are now. So, Cook told Johnson that his semen was found in the victim. Johnson had no idea that blood type could be found in the semen samples of a secretor. Ravitz believes that Johnson was saying he didn't give a semen sample, so there's no way they could have matched the sample. A confession is supposed to match the evidence. Semen found in the victim's vagina is in one of her stockings, and according to Joyce Gilchrist, on her sheets and pillowcase. I didn't come is not a confession to anything. The detectives Cook and Gregory took it as a confession and charged Johnson with rape and murder of Ura Alma Thompson. In addition to those crimes, Johnson was charged with 4 other rapes, 1 attempted rape, robbery with a firearm, 2 counts of first-degree burglary, and illegal possession of a firearm. And you wonder how when all they had was a dead body, and things missing from the apartment, and supposedly forensic evidence in and around and on the victim. So where do we get all these other charges from? We'll get an idea here in a minute.
Okay. Yep. All right. There were 2 preliminary hearings. The first of the 4 other rapes, the burglary and the robbery charges. One victim, 78-year-old woman, testified she entered her apartment. The assailant forced his way inside, began choking her, knocked off her glasses, ransacked her apartment, forced her to undress, raped her on the floor. He broke 2 of my ribs. He broke my arm. She still had a cast on her right arm. During questioning by the prosecutor, the woman was unable to identify Malcolm Rent Johnson as her assailant. A witness who said he had seen the victim talking with someone in the hallway just before she was assaulted was asked to point to the person she saw. That witness pointed to Johnson's brother, Rodney, who was sitting nearby. After being told he selected the wrong man, the witness pointed to Malcolm. He also stated that Johnson's appearance was somewhat different at the time of the attack. Jesus Christ, man.
Well, yeah, you've just pointed to a completely different individual and said it was him.
But we get a mulligan, right? Let's get a mulligan in here.
Well, yeah. There's lots of mulligans.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's you, Alice.
The second preliminary hearing for the Thompson case. The victim's nephew identified several belongings he had seen in his aunt's possession: an antique Alpine case, a portable typewriter, a gold-plated dresser set. OCPD detective Julie Smith testified she saw these items in the apartment where Johnson lived. Smith said she had been investigating the Thompson slaying when she found them. But according to investigators' notes, Thompson's body hadn't even been found yet. The rape and murder of Ura Alma Thompson was a horrible crime. Malcolm Rent Johnson was a dangerous criminal. Bob Macy announced he would seek the death penalty.
Of course he did.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because where's my little pointer at? Well, whoops! Oh, I wasn't ready to go there yet. T1 isn't in the audience as far as I can tell anyway, so it doesn't matter. But Thompson's body hadn't even been found yet. When Julie Smith testified that she saw those items in the apartment where he lived, she had no idea of anything about that because she was one of the officers that had shown up to arrest him earlier on the weapons charge. So there was no way that she could have testified to seeing those items because they weren't looking for those items. So for her to find them, it wasn't a logical testimony because she wasn't looking for them yet. So
no, she was looking for him, not right. Property.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Bob Ravitz was assigned to defend Johnson. The Oklahoma County Public Defender's Office had no budget for expert witnesses. Surprise. Very little money available for an investigation. Ravitz wanted to hire an expert witness to re-examine Joyce Gilchrist's hair and fiber evidence. Judge Joe Cannon denied him the funds. Surprise again.
Of course.
This is a quote. I think I'd rather try a case anywhere else in the United States, said T. Hurley Jordan, head of the Public Defender's Office at the time, commenting on the pro-prosecution bent of local juries. And by this time, they've already, the Public Defender's Office, by the time this case comes up, has already, had to deal with Bob Macy and in his how difficult it is to try a case or defend a case in front of him, and so, and then when Joyce Gilchrist came on board, it was just really became even more difficult because they formed that
dynamic duo, Batman and Robin.
That Oklahoma killing machine for sure. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, we got the newspaper man. The Oklahoman supported Judge Cannon's decision in an editorial saying that, quote, because the crime against Thompson was so heinous, public opinion did not support providing uh, Johnson, okay,
Oops.
a double Johnson, a
Johnson and
double Johnson, yeah, with even adequate funds for his defense. The newspaper called the ruling, quote, reasonable and logical, end quote.
I mean, that's shocking. I mean, it doesn't matter what the crime is, they should have the same amount of funds. It's
Right.
supposed to be innocent
Not a,
until proven guilty. They're supposed to have the same amount of access to things and stuff like that to be able to prove their case, you know what I mean, according to the Constitution. But yet, defense lawyers get pittance to
Mm-hmm.
defend their clients, you know, and I mean, that's not just in America, I mean, that's here as well. During some of Luke's appeals, he was trying to get legal aid funding and stuff like that to be able to get things tested. And even during his trial, he was denied things, you know, which is shocking.
I think that, for Oklahoma and really any state, that the defense should have the same access to funds to have things tested as the prosecution. It's the only right thing to do. And I'm talking about people. I'm talking about people that have to rely on a public defender. Otherwise,
Right.
now we got the Stephen Avery saying, "Poor people lose. Poor people lose all the time."
Yeah. Yeah. And if I may, I just wanted to point to, besides that, here we have the media blatantly uh, uh, trying
So,
this man, basically, or
absolutely,
accusing this man before he's even gone to trial.
Yeah,
Uh,
judging them
yeah,
before any evidence or anything like that. But if you're if your media and police are anything like our media and police, then the police feed the media with tidbits
sure.
and things like that. You know, they'll say, "Don't quote me on it," but you know,
Yeah,
and things like that, and they know fine well that the paper's going to run with it.
right.
So as long as it sells papers and gets people tuned in, they don't care whether they're telling the truth or no.
well, I was going to say, Alice, you know how the media use the police departments in the United States? Big old cash register.
Yeah.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's all it is.
Yep. It
Yeah.
always is. It's well, and my friends from Oklahoma have told me for a long time that the Oklahoman newspaper is has a very long history of being they butter each other's bread, basically, the state and the Oklahoman. They're both taking care of each other, and uh, you know the Oklahoman is happy to share the prosecution side of whatever, and support that, and then of course there's a payoff. So um, and this, is still, it goes on to this day, and you can read it if you ever read. Well, you have to, but if you ever read any articles in the Oklahoman, you maybe not quite as biased now as what I've seen in some of these other older cases, but you can still read their bias and their propensity to lean towards the state's side of all of these things.
Nar-
So
Yeah,
narrative.
narrative, thank you.
they're quick enough at report on anything the state does or anything like that. But
Uh-huh.
if the defence is winning in any sort of way, they'll have a wee five line article or something like that.
Right. Yep. Yep. It's just it's sickening, but it's just unfortunately the way our media our mainstream media, I should say, I guess.
Yeah,
It's just how they operate, and it's horrible because that is not, when the Constitution was written, or the amendments were written, it wasn't intended to be to the media wasn't they were expected to uh, fair and
Act
balance and
responsibly.
balance and checks and balance. Yeah, act responsibly and record and do that responsibly and fairly and proportionately. But somewhere along the line, it got lost.
Yeah.
So thank goodness, there are some of us who are able to see through it and try to parse out what might be true and what might not be true. And then when we can't do that, that's when we go into research mode. So, which is why we're all here. Yay. Okay.
During jury selection, Macy questioned prospective jurors about whether or not they could impose the death penalty. Ravitz asked each potential juror whether he or she had the personal courage to stand up against the others if that one juror favoured acquittal. They selected a jury of 8 women and 4 men. All of them were white. All of them said they were capable of rendering a death verdict. In his opening arguments, Macy described Malcolm Red Johnson as a killer who raped Ura Alma Johnston and then neatly remade her bed after he watched her die. Macy had to say this because the stains Joyce Gilchrist identified as semen and matched to Johnston's blood type were found on the sheets and pillowcase of a made bed. Macy used Johnston's statement, "I didn't come," as an outright admission that Johnston had raped the victim.
I just realized I made a mistake. The victim's last name is not Johnson, it's Thompson. I hope I didn't use Johnson in other places. If I did, I apologize. I'll try to catch him if I did. But yeah, so this is one of those things where I wanted to add this detail, but I just didn't. I just thought, no, it's not necessary, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it's important in my opinion.
It is. Yeah, it's a key detail of what he did.
Well, and because at the crime scene, Joyce Gilchrist testified that, or in her report said that the woman was on the bed. Her bed was made with the pillowcase. Everything was nice, neat, and tidy. But in other evidence, it showed. But then she says that there was semen on the bed and semen on the pillowcase. Yet the evidence shows that she was raped and murdered on the floor. And so, so then the whole idea was, well, what did he do? Did he rape and kill her on the bed and then put her on the floor and then remake the bed all nice and neat again? I mean, when you're having to make shit up like that, then we've talked about this so many other times. When you're having to make stuff up to cover up another thing, then then we have to know it's a lie. So,
yep.
My opinion. There is a link I want everyone to make sure you pay attention to, if you would, in the chat. It's Turner files a bill to give power to the people on the death penalty. And just, take a look at that link. It regards the death penalty in Oklahoma City. Even if you don't live in Oklahoma, and most of us don't, I urge you to follow that link and check that out. It's very interesting, and see what it has to say. Because if we could get the death penalty abolished in the entire country, that would just be if that's the only thing that happened in criminal justice reform in my lifetime, I think I could live with it.
Yeah, it's barbaric now.
Yeah.
Maybe back in the 18th century or the 19th century or whenever it first bloody started, maybe it was all right for then, a bigger population or whatever, but not in the 21st century. It is
No.
just not the done thing. Send them to prison for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? If you're sending them to prison for 263 fucking years, nobody lives for 263 years, so they're going to die in prison. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Well,
if that is their sentence.
and we have a I mean, I realize it's such a catch-22, but we have a situation or a system where we're able to house those who we're sending to, the death row now. We can house them for life. But what has to happen is we have to empty the prisons of all of those minor offenses that have overrun our prisons at this time.
Non-violent crime, the non-violent crime shit.
Crimes, yeah, nonviolent crimes. And women of mothers, women of children, are I think it's the second leading, the second fastest growing population in prisons. And it's not because they're killers and child sex assault committers or anything like that. It's because for them, for the women, for the mothers, it's about drugs. And so that's kind of getting off the path a little bit, but we, once we can get to a point where instead of putting those people in prison and finding a way to treat them, which is also another controversial topic, but and free up the prisons for the violent criminals. There's some place in the middle there. We've got to figure something out. But it can be done. We don't have to kill these horrible people. We don't have to murder them.
No, like the poor buggers that are doing 10 years because they got caught with a bit of marijuana in their pocket. You know what I mean? Let they ones go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Okay. So let's see here. I should have sent it changing a long time ago, so I'd be ready. Okay. And I always like these ones. That was really poor grammar, poor English. I like the ones where we're talking about forensic evidence, especially if Dr. Silkman's in the house, because I know it gets him going. He lights up the chat, so it's really, and we're going to kind of start getting into a little bit of that. And but I know that with my very limited knowledge of forensics and DNA and those kinds of things, I know how horrible Joyce Gilchrist was, because I'm just not completely stupid. And it's really, really frustrating to read and see what the things that she said and did.
She checkered so many cases. It's not even.
Yeah,
it's criminal.
Yeah. It was criminal, and she was eventually fired and tried for it. But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
So this is Joyce Gilchrist's 2 cents, or one of her many 2 cents. Testifying in her first capital case. So this was the first capital case, Malcolm Rent Johnson, that she testified in. She stated that Malcolm Rent Johnson's clothing fibers, hair, and body fluids were all consistent with samples found in the bed and on the body of the victim. While she stopped short of saying that the similarities positively linked Johnson to the crime, Gilchrist testified that the hair and fiber evidence found at the crime scene was microscopically consistent with samples taken from the defendant and his clothing. Negroid hairs found on the bed were consistent with Johnson's, Gilchrist testified. Blue cotton fibers entwined in the negroid hair were consistent with those of the blue shirt Johnson was wearing when arrested.
So it's all implication. She's implying
it. Yeah, well, just about everything she says and does is implication for, because she was not proficient in forensic science like she claims she was.
No.
Far from it.
So, yeah.
All right. Gilchrist continued. Closer examination of the hair evidence revealed blue-tipped negroid hairs found on the bed that matched hair taken from Johnson's arm. This was a result, Gilchrist speculated, of dye rubbing off from Johnson's shirt onto his arm hairs. Okay. Bob Rabbits, in closing arguments, attacked Gilchrist's testimony, stated that the blue that Gilchrist saw in the hair evidence was, in fact, the blue lens of the comparison microscope. Argued that it was crazy to believe that Johnson would rape the victim on the bed, leave hair and semen stains on the pillowcase and sheets, and then neatly remake the bed.
I would argue that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This makes sense to me.
God, man.
It doesn't make any damn sense.
It does, Nick.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry. Yeah, so it's some of the stuff that she claims is astounding.
Yeah.
And in the Ronnie Lee Miller case, I think it's the Ronnie Lee Miller case, I get to tell the bear and the dog and the horse and the rabbit story.
I forgot about that, Rhonda. Oh my God, that was so fucking ridiculous.
It was funny though.
It was funny, aye, because you couldn't believe it.
But that'll be next week. So you want to come, you definitely nothing like leaving some teasers, right? You definitely want to listen to next week's because it's too funny. It's not funny because it's really sad, but it's funny because she's such an idiot.
She's a fucking twat.
Oh goodness!
So good that I'm not monetized and I don't have to watch all of that stuff that closely. So I think it's hysterical.
Well, she's actually been pretty nice.
I know.
Because of all the things she's terrible on Gilchrist. And I can't think of that case that they sent samples. It was that case that Farak wrote about. That because that town was so small, they sent those samples off to her lab to be tested, and she janked it up.
Yeah, I know. It's there's something like there's a little bell wiggling, ringing, whatever. But I can't put my finger on exactly what you're talking about for 100%.
It was one of those cases. It happened in Nebraska or Kansas or whatever.
Yeah. We've had this conversation probably 5 or 6 times, Jack. We could never remember. Oh, heck. What was that? Oh, well.
Bob Macy defended Gilchrist by saying that Rabbits had to attack her because she was my whole case. If it were up to the victim to decide punishment, I think she'd string him up from the tallest tree you could find and take a slow time doing it.
Oh my God.
In closing arguments, quote, I'm fighting for freedom right now. I'm fighting for Ura Thompson's discomfort in this city and this county. Not to have to live like that. Not to have to fear him anymore. They've got a right to live without having that kind of fear, and there's only one way you can stop that kind of fear, and that's to march up to that jury room and convict this man because he's guilty. There's no doubt. There's only one verdict: guilty of murder in the first degree. By the end of Macy's closing argument, several jurors were crying. So was Bob Macy. The jury deliberated for an hour and a half. Guilty. Sentenced to death. Wow. An hour and a half. I mean, that's no time to look over fucking anything at all.
That's barely even time for lunch.
Especially especially if you guys go, if those in the chat that aren't familiar with this whole case, if you go to Daniel's Truth and listen to the recordings of the book that I've done, because most of this is all taken from Death and Justice, uh, and so you can go listen to it and get all of these details, why that's such a big deal, that because Bob Macy was evidently very skilled at becoming emotional and saying, praying to or in front of the jury and crying and just if it's effectively influencing the jury, to believe in the guilt, because it's so emotional even for him.
Yeah, he would spin it like, if Ura was your grandmother, if Ura was your mother, to get them to think it on that sort of basis. He knew how to wind them round his little fucking finger.
Right. Okay, during the penalty phase, Oklahoma prosecutors are allowed to present unadjudicated acts, which are accusations of crimes that have yet to be proven in court, which is just astounding to me.
Aye.
Anyway, to show that a defendant is a, quote, continuing threat to society, end quote. Macy and Albert examined a series of elderly women who testified that they had been sexually assaulted by a black man. One of the victims was able to identify Johnson, as well as several items that she claimed had been taken from her that were found in Johnson's possession. Two other victims could not identify Johnson, but they did identify their watches, which Macy said were taken from Johnson's apartment. And to my knowledge, there's no proof of that. Anyway, Johnson's previous convictions of rape, armed robbery, and burglary were also introduced as evidence of a continuing threat. Quote, anybody, this is Macy, quote, anybody who could do what he did to these old ladies doesn't deserve to live, end quote. Macy told jurors, quote, he's 24 years old and has 15 felonies. What does it take to give the death penalty? End quote. At the time, Johnson had been convicted of 8 felonies, including the rape and murder charges of the Thompson case. Oh, God, I gotta fix that.
During deliberations for sentencing, 2 jurors stated that they favored. It's okay. They favored a life term if they could be assured that Johnson would not be paroled soon. According to the state law at the time, the judge could give no such guarantees, so they changed their votes to death sentence.
Oh,
Johnson, yeah.
That made me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be, you can't be assured that he won't be paroled soon, so okay, let's just kill him.
All right, I guess we'll have to send him to death. Yeah.
Johnson's second trial on charges of rape, attempted rape, armed robbery, burglary, and illegal weapons possessions began in January of 1983. Macy said he was prosecuting Johnson on these additional charges because he wanted to have as many convictions as possible against him in the case the death sentence was overturned. The initial stage of jury selection resulted in a mistrial when jurors were allowed to see Johnson in handcuffs. A new jury was chosen. After hearing less than 2 days of testimony and deliberating for 37 minutes, they convicted Johnson for attempted rape and robbery and gave him two 25-year sentences.
275-year.
275-year sentences. You were talking about this a minute ago before we move forward, and I forget. These cops and so forth, they have seen this evidence in Johnson's apartment or whatever. Didn't they have photos, or like, why didn't they? Did they have the evidence?
Well, no, because Which evidence? Because we're talking about the only evidence they had from the apartment.
Yeah.
When the live-in girlfriend let them in, the only thing they had was the stuff from the belongings for Ira Alma Thompson, the
woman.
mink, the fur coat rather, and the watch, the apartment keys, which is really very key to this case as well. Which is a big part of this case, is the keys to Thompson's apartment. And they and then there was whatever the items were that were taken from Thompson's apartment is the only thing that was found in the Johnson's apartment when they arrested him. So so I wanted to look really quick here.
I mean, not even that. The fact that 2 jurors are saying they favoured a life term if they could be assured that Johnson would not be paroled. What about life without parole? They could have said he'll get life without parole.
Right.
You know what I mean? But because the state says, oh, they can't guarantee that, then they went, all right, then no bother, we'll just go for the death penalty. Right.
Well, it's clear. It's clear.
Because the state says, oh, they can't guarantee that, then they went, all right, then no bother, we'll just go for the death penalty. Right.
Well, it's clear. It's clear. It's clear.
The state says, oh, they can't.
I was going to say somebody needs to mute.
It's Cherie's. Cherie has joined us. It's her YouTube in the background, I think.
Oh, hey, Cherie.
Hi, Cherie. Welcome.
Johnson.
There. I unmuted you. I didn't realize I had the power to mute and unmute people at will.
You have all the power.
I've been doing this for over a year and didn't realize I could do that.
I unmuted you. I didn't realize.
Cherie, your YouTube is playing in the background. You want to mute your YouTube? That's funny. So Kit the Cat, the KK Katie, says that failure of justice. In this thrilling true crime book, best-selling and award-winning author John Farrak explores the murder, investigation, trial, conviction, and eventual exoneration. The largest such ever in the United States of the Beatrice Six. I knew it was something. I could never. Does that ring a bell to you now, Jack?
Absolutely, the Beatrice Six. Absolutely.
Beatrice Six. Yeah, that was the one that Jirac. God. About involved Farrak. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for putting that in there, Kit the Cat. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that we were talking about for sure. Thank you. Yay. Okay, yeah. So it is. It's infuriating that because I tried to put myself in the minds of the jurors when I was when I read this chapter the first time, and I was reading that part. I thought, oh my gosh, what would I do if I don't think I could say I would be a holdout. I would hang the jury, because that is just not a good enough reason to send somebody to death, to put somebody to death.
No, absolutely not.
You know, I just, it's horrifying that
But
those
no,
two
not
did
only that, though, Rhonda, to take 37 minutes in deliberations, 37 minutes to send somebody to their death.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just beggars belief.
Yeah, it's definitely astounding. It just doesn't. It just never gets less astounding to me. Okay, following the second conviction, Macy stated that he would forego prosecuting Johnson on the other rape, assault, and robbery charges. He still had 3 other victims if Judge Jack Parr decided that the sentences would run consecutively. which is exactly what Parr decided to do. Even if Johnson's death sentence and conviction were both overturned, he would still be facing 150 years in prison. And you know what? Now, I'm not trying to minimize one crime over another. And it's already been established that Malcolm Rent Johnson was a horrible criminal, in his past. But when I look at that and I think 150 years in prison for rape and murder, or rape, I think it was rape, those three
Right.
that he was talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And they got, and he would still face 150 years. And then I look at Daniel and he's facing 263 years. There's just always a way that you can, that it's just so, what is the word I always try to find? It's the punishment definitely doesn't fit the crimes at all.
No, it's gung-ho. It's,
Yeah.
I can do this and I can give you this and this is what you're going to get. It's, it's like a gung-ho attitude.
Yeah. So during the appeals process, Bob Ravitz hired Skip Palahniuk. We all know Skip. He's our friend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
An expert witness who said that Gilchrist had testified beyond the bounds of accepted science when she matched an arm hair to the defendant. Arm hairs are generally not individual enough for such comparisons. Palahniuk also disputed Gilchrist's other hair and fiber testimony. However, Ravitz was unable to get an evidentiary hearing based on Palahniuk's findings of
course
all
not.
people.
He's one of the most respected scientists there is.
It's just crazy, just mind-boggling. Yeah. Okay. Jack?
Oh, okay. Okay. In October 1987, the Supreme Court denied one of Johnson's appeals. However, Justice Marshall and Brennan, in their dissenting opinion, argued that Johnson should not have been allowed an independent an independent police scientist to examine hair, blood, and semen evidence against him. Justice Marshall and Brennan said that because the court did not appoint a scientist for Johnson, he was prevented from raising doubts about the state's evidence and possibly finding that the evidence was, in fact, exculpatory. At the time, Marshall and Brennan were dissenting on every death penalty case because they believed that capital punishment was unconstitutional. With his appeals exhausted, Johnson was given an execution date of January 6, 2000. His last meal consisted of 3 fried chicken thighs, a dozen shrimp, tater tots with ketchup, 2 slices of pecan pie, strawberry ice cream, honey and biscuits, and a soda.
It never takes my breath away when I read what a prisoner's had for their last meal, a death row inmate. It never takes my breath away. It's just such a sobering.
It's simple, you know what I mean? Simple, some fried chicken, some shrimp, you know what I mean? Tater tots. I mean, I don't know what's tater tots over there.
Tater tots are they're like julienne potatoes.
All made
and then
ball.
Yeah, it's made into like a little ball and deep fried.
Deep fried. Oh my God! What could be better?
Right.
Or you can air fry them or bake them if you wish.
Yeah. So it's like patty pops. we call them pops because they're like wee popcorn bits, round potatoes. Maybe. So yeah, I mean, it's the simplest meal. You know what I mean? You'd think
comfort food.
The last meal on earth, they'd be wanting like steak and you know what I mean, a big 7-ounce steak with you know what I mean, gravy and a beer and but it's a bit of pie, some ice cream, some biscuits. It's
well, and if you think back, I know that I think you're caught up to chapter 10. Alice, in the reading, in the recordings that I did. But if you think about it, a lot of the last meals of these prisoners in this book that were executed, some of them are just a hamburger from Wendy's or McDonald's and French
Yeah.
fries and a Coke, because
Yeah. That's all. That's what I mean. It's always the simplest thing,
pizza.
You would think they've been told you can have anything you want as your last meal,
Mhm.
then why not get a big fucking
I'm
sirloin
having
steak?
I'm having a 20
Yeah,
20 ounce, 24-ounce
yeah,
porterhouse, man.
yeah. But there was a prisoner, and I can't think of who it is. There was a prisoner that actually ordered like a pretty extravagant meal, then refused to eat it. So everything changed. I don't know who
Yeah,
that was. Yep,
I mean it's
they're limited now on what they
Yeah,
can have.
they are,
yeah,
and now they're given like a budget. Okay, you can spend $10 at any
Yeah,
fast food place in the area. Kind of BS.
yeah. It's
So
pretty simple now. I mean, and
yeah,
inexpensive.
yeah,
I mean my justice system is not friggin' perfect by a long shot. You know what I mean? But we abolished the death penalty many, many, many years ago. And it
Well,
was
the,
one of the best things I think that my country could have done,
right.
because it's barbaric, it's inhumane. You wouldn't treat a dog the way you treat humans on death row, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Leaving them there to suffer for 30 years, you know what I mean? It's just no right.
Right. Yeah. Well, because you know what, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And even if the individual who was murdered, and I'm not minimizing that by any stretch, yeah, they didn't get a choice, and many of them were brutally murdered, but it, it doesn't it doesn't make it okay for the the people with sound minds, and the ability, it doesn't make it okay for us to do worse or the same, in that
it's
situation.
it's state
No,
sanctioned. It's state sanctioned murder.
Right, it
yeah,
is.
it is. And
It is.
what gives these states the right to play God?
Yeah.
They put people in jail because they think that they're trying to play God if they go out and murder somebody. You know what I mean? They get put into jail for life. The states
Yeah.
that have still got the death penalty are committing murder, but they don't see it as that because they think it's legal. It's not. They've got no right to be judge, jury, and executioner. You know what I mean? They do not.
Well, it's a holdout from when the country was formed, and you had a lot of violence, and I get it, that, but it's different now, and I was used to be a kill them now, kill them. They did this and they did blah blah, and then I realized one day what I was saying. As I got older, and really began to understand that. When you're younger, I think for me, it was different. As I got older and more matured and really thought about other aspects of criminal justice, and yeah, I just can't agree with it now. I just can't.
Yeah. Same for me. Kit the Cat says some states place tight restrictions. In Florida, the food for the last meal must be purchased locally, and the cost is limited to
Yeah.
$40. That's
Say,
actually a pretty big budget, from what I've read
yeah,
and researched lately.
for some places that is a little large.
Yeah. Well, and then you look in Oklahoma, cost is limited to 15. There you go.
Jesus Christ.
It figures, right? In Louisiana, the prison warden traditionally joins the condemned prisoner for the last meal. Oh, well,
Well,
I don't know how I
Well,
feel about that. I mean, I guess
exactly,
depending on
Rhonda.
how the warden behaves.
Yeah, aye, exactly. I've just read that there myself, and I'm like, well, is that a good thing or is that
Yeah.
fucking sinister thing, you know what I mean? That you while you have your last meal to make sure that you don't choke on it, you know what I mean? And you know,
well,
or is
I
it
think
a genuine? I want to sit with you because I know you can't have your family in that here. I don't want you being on your own. You know what I mean? So how do you take that?
let's break bread
think
together before I send you to the death chamber.
I think
Yeah.
about a prison like Angola there, in Louisiana. It's bad. It's bad. Is it still open? Does anybody know? It is. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I believe it is.
It's a huge prison, and it's a lot of bad business going on there.
It was one of the worst. Yep,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
All right, let's see. Before he walked into the death chamber, Johnson met with the Reverend Charles Story, the spiritual advisor for death row inmates. Now, see, I would break bread with that guy.
Yeah,
That's my fun.
Yeah.
sure.
Johnson, I'm innocent, Johnson told him. Quote, I've got peace in my heart and I'm ready to go home, end quote. Later, Story said that Johnson was the only convict he had ever spoken with who did not confess to the crime for which he was being executed. When Johnson was led to the execution chamber, he made a final statement, quote, I'm going to heaven on a midnight train, end quote. Johnson said, on a midnight train, end quote, Johnson said. This is bad punctuation here. Then asked God to bless his family, who sat watching in the witness chamber. At 12:09 a.m., the executioners began administering the drugs. Johnson's right foot, clad in a blue slipper, shook nervously. He blinked 3 times and exhaled, his cheeks puffing. Then his foot stopped shaking. His eyes dimmed, went glossy, and slowly closed. Malcolm Rent Johnson was pronounced dead at 12:13 a.m. Johnson's case was one that would come back to haunt Bob Macy and Joyce Gilchrist. When the Gilchrist scandal broke, Bob Ravitz and other members of the defense bar thought of Malcolm Rent Johnson. If any of Gilchrist's death row cases who had already been executed might have been actually innocent, factually innocent, it was Malcolm Rent Johnson. That just makes my blood run cold.
Yeah.
Cherie, do you want to read, or are you able to read one of the? I don't know where you're. I've got her muted. Does that matter, or can she still unmute herself? Oh, that's so funny.
I don't think she can unmute herself if she's ready.
Okay. If you want to, Cherie, you don't have to read it if you don't want.
Sure.
Hey, Cherie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Great. I hear whispering.
Hi. When defense attorneys began asking to re-examine the evidence in the Johnson case, all of the case files
Can be all right, Cherie? Okay. Well, I'll read it. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'll do it because
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
I'm having trouble. I think you better do it.
Okay, we got it.
Okay.
When defense attorneys began asking to re-examine the evidence in the Johnson case, all of the case files and much of the physical evidence turned up missing. David an assistant DA at the time, discovered this when he was reviewing the Gilchrist cases for the DA's office. The Johnson files should have been on the 4th floor of the courthouse building with all the other archived trial materials. Prater sent Wes Lane, Macy's successor as DA, an email telling him about the missing evidence and saying that something needed to be done about it. Interestingly enough, there are now allegations that crucial evidence from recent cases, some of them allegedly high profile, cannot be found on the 4th floor of the courthouse. Some employees or witnesses claim that there is a closet at the end of the hall of the DA's office behind lock and key with evidence from some of these cases. What happened to DA Prater's ethics and honesty between the Johnson case and Daniel Holtzclaw's case?
Now that's just, those were just my own little words in there. Just
Right.
there's no source to be cited there. So, yeah. Let's make sure we read this because I love history and I love finding out the origin of things. Speaking of Angola, it is named Angola after the former plantation that occupied this territory. The plantation was named for the African country that was the origin of many slaves brought to Louisiana. I believe I remember reading that in one of my in my prisons issues course in college. That's interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
It's a rough place. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's good history.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to leave the Malcolm Rent Johnson case. I really strongly urge you to go to Anthony D says, "Where is Bob Macy buried so I can put a toilet on his grave and take the biggest poop?" I thought that was really good. I liked it. Thank you. Put a toilet on it. Why would you put a toilet on it? Come on now. Where's your sense of adventure?
Shut right on the grave. Fuck the toilet.
Just take a rounded curtain thing up and put it up there and just go out there and get some privacy and have fun. I like that.
Go do your thing. Don't wait around for a toilet.
Nope.
Oh,
and things could take days to get delivered out there, so just go.
Just go do your thing for real.
Prater never had any ethics. It would be, I would bet he wrote the letter to former DA Lane as a cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something else too about this. Prater in.
We lost you.
And he's always got like this.
We lost all you. Everything you just said there was gone.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't know why. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I wasn't moving. That's always scary when I'm not moving and I'm sitting on my hands and I lose sound. That's not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really interesting because in this book, the few times that Prater's mentioned, you know, he seems to be this honest, ethical.
Talking about Furman's book, right?
Yeah, Furman's book, Death and Justice. But then it just proves to me that he learned something from Macy and Gilchrist and, you know, all the other ADAs in the state at that time. You know, he learned how to be slippery and conniving and evil and underhanded and unethical and dishonest and hateful and what else, ugly, and you know, he learned it.
Models, did he?
He observed it. He absorbed those things. You know, I mean, you got to think. You know, he looked at the success that, if you can call it success, I guess it depends on your
bar success.
Exactly where your goalposts are, and so. He definitely, I mean, we don't know what he was like yet. We don't know because some of us are still trying to figure it out or find out. But, you know, who knows what he was like as when he was in law enforcement and when he was an attorney. You know, we don't know, but we can only assume, just like I believe Henderson was committing sexual assaults and having affairs or whatever when he was a cop. And not just when he became a judge. I believe the same thing about Prater. He had to have. I agree with Kit the cat. He probably wrote it as a cover to make himself look good and honest and ethical.
I mean, it's not just that, Rhonda. I mean, these people didn't he just wake up that morning and say, right, I'm going to be an asshole?
Right.
You know what I mean? They've been assholes long before now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it would not surprise me if we were able to get documents and things like that going way back to the 80s and everything like that, when Henderson was a copper and Prater when he was younger and everything like that. I guarantee you there would have been assholes back then, just like they are now.
Right.
And they've got away with it for that long because nobody has had the gall or anything like that to turn around and go, here, wait a minute, you're wrong, you're banging the order, and they've just let them continue doing it. So they've got away with it for so long, so they still think they can get away with it now. And
Right.
Karma's coming, and she's coming for them all.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I lied. I have a few slides. I did make some teaser slides, about Robert Lee Miller. Because I want you to come back. I want everybody to come back next week and get all the juice on his case. But I do have a few slides for Robert Miller. I'm so sorry that I screwed that up.
Cherie sent me a link, and it's about Farrak's book. It's called Failure of Justice.
Oh, okay. You want to drop that?
I will.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
I think
I've read it.
Kit the Cat, I think she dropped one in earlier.
Yeah.
For Failure of Justice? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was
Okay.
the link or if she just said it was that was the name of the book.
That was the case. I think she was commenting about the case.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, we're gonna. But yeah, Cherie's link is the book or something that goes to it. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I dropped it.
So here is the little teaser, a couple of teaser slides for next week when we talk about Robert Lee Miller. On September 3rd, 1986, the body of 83-year-old Anna Fowler was found in her home. Fowler lived alone in a house on a corner lot in the Military Park neighborhood. The suspect had broken in through the back porch. Not too long after that, another elderly woman was murdered in a similar manner. Both were raped. Nothing had been taken from either home. The suspect in each was found to be a type A secretor, and several negroid hairs were found. Of the 40 men interviewed, 23 matched the ABO type of the suspect. One of them was Robert Lee Miller. The detectives in this case were Jerry Flowers and Bob Woods. They interviewed Miller, who said that he had special powers. And I don't know, when you read this chapter, it appears like he may have had some sort of mental illness, possibly like a schizophrenia or something. Although I don't think he was ever diagnosed with anything, but just by the way the interview / interrogation goes, it kind of seems that way. After a 12-hour interrogation, he was arrested for 2 counts each of first-degree murder, rape, and burglary. Naturally, Bob Macy intended to charge this as a death penalty case.
Wow.
Okay. Jack, you want to read this?
I can't see it. If I could see it, I could read it.
Okay. Well, can you see it now?
No.
Nope. You need to share the
screen. Because I'm not sharing it.
My vision's not really that good anyway. I sure can't say from Michigan to Utah.
I had it on. I had the screen on us still, and not on the. Sorry, guys. There you
That's
go.
okay. Okay.
Come on,
Miller's.
Just cooperate with me. Quit
Just go with it, right? Shut the hell up and go with it, Jack. Okay. Miller's public defender was Ron Evans. He ordered an examination by a psychiatrist, Dr. Larry Peters.
Prater.
I wonder if... Prater. Oh, yeah, Dr. Larry Prater. I wonder if he was related to D.A. Prater. Good question. The purpose of the examination was to determine whether Miller was competent to stand trial. Dr. Prater said that he was fit to stand trial, but was a danger to the community if released from custody without treatment. Yet throughout the interrogation, there was no indication that Miller was violent. In fact, the detectives didn't even bother to search him before interrogating him, and didn't search him during the interrogation, even when Miller pulled out a pocket knife to show them the kind of weapon he thought the killer might have used. Whoopsie.
Oops. We know better than that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
This is one case. This is one case I haven't heard anything about at all. Go ahead.
It's a
It's a doozy.
well, we're losing you here. Well, this is the sorry, let me go back. There we go. Yeah, it's quite, this one is very, very involved, which is why I couldn't put it all in tonight's podcast, because there's
So much.
a lot of information. Yeah.
Miller was eventually accused of breaking into another woman's house. In this case, there was a witness, sort of. A nun saw a black man attempt to break into the lady's home. Another nun called the police, while the original nun described what she saw. The nun who called was the witness at trial, not the nun who actually saw the attempted break-in.
Well, how much sense does that make? So that's the tease. That's all you get tonight on the next case. Because what they did to what they did to Robert Lee Miller, again, was just really, it was actually just cruel. It was just cruel and mean, and defamatory, and
Well, coming from Bloodthirsty Bob, I mean, my God.
I like that Bloodthirsty Bob.
He was that guy.
He really was definitely bloodthirsty. Yeah. So next week we will definitely give you some more details into that case.
I got a question.
Uh-huh.
So Thursday's going to be the permanent time slot now. Thursday it's 5 Central. Is that right?
And I'll just kind of put that to a poll. Everybody in chat can either leave your opinion in the comments or just comment here in the chat now. Wednesdays are difficult for a couple of reasons. Well, Wednesday's the best day for me because I don't tend any grandkids on Wednesdays. So Wednesday's really technically the best day for me in that regard. But what I'm feeling uncomfortable with is having 2 podcasts within a couple of hours of each other on the same day, especially podcasts that are never less than an hour and a half to 2 hours long. I feel like for me, that's too much. Just for me, even if I wasn't doing a podcast of my own, I would be like, gosh, I got a couple hours. I can,
Listen, Rhonda. I just got to tell you, if people can spend 5 hours on the open mic, come on.
I know, but that's on a weekend, Jack.
That's true. People can sit around. They could have a few suds. Okay, I understand.
So I don't know. I mean, I'll keep doing it on Wednesdays if that's what the people want. I only have
it don't matter.
I have 12 people viewing right now, but if that's what the 12 people want,
I just don't see. I mean, for me, I just don't see a real problem. But it's really your call. I'm okay either day. Seriously, it don't matter to me.
Well, like I said, Wednesday is definitely the best day for me because I don't have to. And
that's what I do. I think it's workable.
All right. Well, I always want to make everybody happy. It can't just be.
You can't.
Some of the
forget
people,
it.
Some of the time, it has
forget
to be everybody.
It. All no. Forget it. It's not gonna. Yeah, and you can't.
Almost 60 years old, I would know this by now, but I sure haven't got it all together for sure.
I can corroborate. I can corroborate that too.
Oh my gosh! Just for those who may have come late to the chat, I was discussing having read some documents that came in. Well, it was it was a request for consideration or something from the plaintiffs in Daniel's case for some, whatever it was. I don't remember. We were reading like 7 or 8 or 9 pages, and the one page the one page that said that C word 4 times was my page to read. And I was telling Jack and Alice that my palms of my hands started sweating, and I was like trying to take deep breaths without people hearing me. It was terrible. I hate that word. I want it to go away. So, oh.
No chance. You're stuck with it now.
That's right. You own it. You might as well get a T-shirt. Get it on a T-shirt. Get it on a T-shirt and just wear it.
I can corroborate.
Yeah. Corroborated by Wanda. Corroborated by Wanda.
That's it, Jack. Corroborated by Wanda.
That's it. In fact, you could probably start a second channel off your YouTube.
I don't think that's necessary. God, I can't even maintain one channel. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but see, the other channel could be, it could just be fun. Just be fun. Yeah, just fun. Screw all this, macabre horseshit that we look at all the time.
Don't tempt me now. Come on.
I know.
All right. Well, based on what we've covered just for now, does anybody in the chat have any questions or comments or concerns or suggestions or anything?
Where to get the cheapest Pepto for thinking about Bob F. and Macy? Joyce Gilchrist. Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. See what you did, Jack.
Hey, Doc's just, he's just there for support. I know Doc. Yeah, it's just the way he is.
I'm working on a little surprise for Doc. I don't know when I'll have it ready, but you're just going to have to keep coming back just in case. You never know when it'll be here.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Oh, surprise, surprise. Okay, Gomer. All right. Well, I think we'll get into some more crazy Bob Macy business then next week, and we'll get through Robert Lee Miller, and there's another
Who's the third one
that goes along with Robert Lee Miller, whose name is Ronnie Lott. I think I finally got those names all figured out. Ronnie Lott, and then I hope to be able to get to Mark Fowler, but that one's the one that's heartbreaking.
Well, we need to read it.
Huh? Yeah.
We need to read about it.
Well, it's a really, really sad case, and that particular case, it talks about his crime and the the trial and all of that stuff. It goes through all of that stuff, but what it really does, what is even more impactful, and excuse me, even more impactful about Mark Fowler's case. So the case that we just talked about, the little teaser, Robert Lee Miller.
Yeah.
Robert Lee Miller occurs in Chapter 9 of Death and Justice. Mark Andrew Fowler occurs in Chapter 8 of Death and Justice. So Robert Lee Miller is accused of killing Mark Andrew Fowler's grandmother, Anna Fowler.
Oh, wow.
So 4 months, and we'll talk about this, and I was struggling with, I wanted to do Mark Fowler first and then Robert Lee Miller, and I probably should have, but 4 months after the trial began, I believe, or after Mark Fowler was charged, I can't remember what the time date was or the time period was, but 4 months after it happened, after he was charged or convicted or whatever, his father, who's Jim Fowler, his mother is Anna Fowler, and she was murdered. And Robert Lee Miller got accused of that murder. So you guys, I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe Cherie and I are going to have to discuss this because I've teased you now with Robert Lee Miller, but I really wonder if we need to talk about
Fowler.
Mark Fowler first. What do you think, Cherie?
Yeah, that it might make this story fit together better.
It might make it piece it together a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I've teased you with Robert Lee Miller, so now you definitely have to come back next week. But I think we will. I think we're gonna tackle the Mark Fowler case first, so that it makes the Miller case make a little more
Make more
sense.
cool.
But
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the Fowler case is Anthony says she wants everyone to poop on him. All right, whoever lives in Oklahoma, find out where Bob Macy's grave is. Anthony wants to poop on it.
He must really need to go.
Or he wants enough poop on it and he can't handle it all by himself. Oh, geez.
Shaz says, I was watching a true crime channel the other day and Gilchrist was the specialist testing the evidence. I thought, oh my God, was this guy really innocent too?
Oh, probably. Shaz, did that happen to be... Oh, well, never mind. Do you remember what it was called, Shaz? Um, well, the reason I ask, I act like I'm waiting for her to say something, I can hear her or something. But I was telling Jack, I was trying to find an episode of Law and Order the other day, because in season 12, episode 7 of just Law and Order, the one with Jerry Orbach, I think the original,
Yeah.
is I want everyone to poop on him. I just can't get over that. I got to put it back. It's so funny. I'm so immature. But there's a case that is they do a case on that episode based on a Gilchrist case. And I believe it was, I can't remember now if it was Malcolm Rent Johnson or Robert Lee Miller. Now I don't remember. But anyway, I was wondering. And anyway, Jack and I looked for it and I couldn't find it. I looked on Peacock, couldn't find it. Jack suggested Peacock, but it's one of those things that you can find every episode of the show, but the one you want. So,
Well, the thing about Law and Order, and I'm sure that just to add into this, Amazon had a deal a while back, and I should have bought more. They had a lot of the early seasons from Law and Order. I'm talking about from season 1 up through, and they were like, each season was like $2.99, and I bought the first 2 seasons, not thinking they wouldn't be there later. But of course, now they're gone, or they're not gone. But I think you literally would have to buy them on like DVD. I can't find them anywhere.
oh yeah,
Peacock only goes back to season 14, 13, 14, I think. Doesn't go back to season 12, which is unfortunate. I mean, there's a lot of good episodic stuff if you like Law and Order, which I did for the most part. There was some stuff I didn't like because I think Dick Wolf did things that, well, anyway, I'm getting off subject here. But anyway.
No,
that's what we do.
have any of you seen the new Venom movie?
No,
I
but
have
I
not.
sure have it in my queue.
Well,
Where's that at Netflix?
No. Well, it's for me. It's on Sky Cinema. But Making a Murderer gets a mention in the new Venom movie, and I was watching it, and he mentioned, well, we have been watching Making a Murderer, and I was like, woo!
So let me give you an invitation to a place I know about.
Yeah. Speaking of that.
Yeah. Okay, there was another announcement that I was going to make for somebody, and I don't remember because it was in Discord, and hold on a minute, let me find it because I want to make sure that get it. Um, uh,
You must be talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new one. There's actually one called Venom. This must be a sequel. This is a sequel.
Yeah, Venom, the Let There Be Carnage, that's the second one. And it's the second one that Making a Murderer gets a mention in.
Yeah, you can rent it here. I'm looking on my app here. It says on row 8, whatever the hell row 8 is, you can rent it for $5.50 on Prime Video. It's $5.99. Voodoo, same shit. Okay, yeah, you got to rent it. Can't get it. Can't get it free anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, it cost me about £16 to rent it.
God Almighty!
wow.
I hope you got chocolates and some flowers. Jesus Christ!
No, I've got a nephew that knows some really good websites.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you have a nephew who borrows things as well?
Yes.
Okay. So let me see if I can have, and I need to, I'm really sorry. I need to get some links in the description for you guys tonight or first thing tomorrow. But if, I can never say this lady's name, Kit the Cat, the KK Katie could drop that link again.
I love it.
It's just such a long freaking name. It's hard.
Yeah,
to
but I lie.
Can you imagine Dr. Silkman? Because Dr. Silkman's always very formal and very professional that way. He always refers to us as our screen name.
He is.
Well,
I'm kidding. He is. I'm kidding.
In that way.
I got you.
But can you imagine that if he had to call on this person every time they needed to make a comment or something?
That would be fun.
He would. Yes.
Try to say that when you're
KK Katie. Did you have a comment? Doesn't matter because we've all forgotten now anyway.
Thinking about before I forget the Beatrice 6.
Beatrice 6, yeah.
Yeah, that case. If I don't know who else read the Farag book, it is. I'll get some more information because we brought it up, and now I'm kind of got a hook in my mouth about it because it was such a polarizing book to me about what happened. This happened in a small town, and as I'm remembering, now I've only read the book once, and it's been a couple of years. They damn near bankrupted that town over this because of what happened.
Right. That's right. I remember. Whoops. Dr. Silkman said that name would take me 2 weeks to read out, for fuck's sake. I told you. Let's see. She says, just say, oh, no, not going to do that. Sorry.
Moses got a comment. Friend request me on Facebook, and I will send you something very, very interesting to look into. Ooh, There you go.
Who are you talking to? Me, Mose?
Well, you're the host. It's gotta be.
Okay. All right. I'll dig out my Facebook, see if I can, and I will do that for sure.
God, there's another one. Son of a.
Listen here. This we can't do this. Kit the Cat, the KK Katie says, just say Kit the Cat or KK. No, not doing that. Dr. Silkman, try saying it with a lisp. No thanks. I can't even say it without a lisp. Are you kidding me? Mose says anyone. Okay, I'll get on Facebook and try to find you, Mose. Is it just under your name, Mose Call? Call. And Susan was supposed to be here tonight too, because she was supposed to be teaching me how to say something with an Italian dialect.
Susan had a long night.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know, and so did I.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah,
it was great though. I really enjoyed it.
I told her to put her big girl panties on and let's go. You You still got to go to work. It doesn't matter what you do the night before.
Well, I fell asleep. Her night probably went on longer than mine did, but
I think it did. I
Yeah.
fell asleep too, but I think it did.
I'm sure it did. So yeah, she's a little tired, more tired than I am for sure. But
Yeah.
anyway, all right. Well, so that's what we're going to do. Cherie has convinced me because she's so loud and boisterous and obnoxious. Do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, but we'll start with, we'll do the Fowler case next week. And it will, I keep getting to say this and then I get sidetracked for somehow. But more than just the Fowler case itself and the crime that took place and all of that stuff, this chapter also tells, it actually was something that kind of, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Mark Furman said in the book. Now, remember, Mark Furman is a former LAPD detective, hardcore liar, racist, all that stuff.
Big time.
And he believed in the death penalty. He was a staunch Republican and very much believed in the death penalty. And he actually began to have a completely different thought and feeling about the death penalty after the Fowler case, because the Fowler case will take you through all of it, and then it will take you through to execution, and it will and the parents and the family and Mark Fowler himself will, I have chills, will give that point of view to you.
I'm curious, Rhonda, and you've probably said this before, and I've missed it. But what was, considering, Mark Furman's background and everything that happened, what was his, what happened? I mean, why is he writing this book? What prompted this?
He's actually an author. He's written many books, and I'm trying to remember.
But that was after he left
After he left the LA, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I believe that he was just getting, people were commenting to him, making comments, and maybe it was, I'd have to go back and read it again. I think it was in the first chapter, maybe, where or the forward or something, where he talks about how he came to Oklahoma to look into this. And I believe it was something, and I'll find it for sure, and I'll read it out to you guys next week for sure.
Okay.
But well,
given what you just said, and knowing where he stood and how he was, this just seems to be, I don't know, it just seems to be at odds as to where he was, and then for him to be writing and exposing all of this as to what Bob Macy has done in his career, and Joyce Gilchrist as well.
Well, and I don't think that when he started looking into it, I don't think that he didn't necessarily thought that it was just all a bunch of hooey. I think he was definitely believed there was something to it, but he just didn't know, how much of it was being exaggerated and how much of it was, factual or,
Right.
story time or whatever. But I do know that there was, I believe it was somebody, and I don't know if Cherie can remind or, give me a better idea, but it's in the book. I just don't remember exactly where. Cherie, do you recall?
I just looked at it up on my Kindle version. It's like on the first page. I mean, in Kindle, it's on the second, but
Okay.
I think in a real book, it would be on the first.
On the first page of the introduction?
Yes.
On the second page, let's see. Whoops. Okay, he says, I had come to McAllister to visit death row. I was researching the death penalty. There have been a series of high-profile releases of inmates from death row, several of them in Oklahoma, and I wanted to find out exactly what had happened and why. The media has a way of simplifying crime stories. so that they stray further and further from the truth, the more attention is paid to them. So yeah, I guess it was he was just researching the death penalty, and when you
I
look at
see.
the death penalty, it obviously is going to, at some point, you're going to get to Oklahoma for sure.
Oh, of course.
Really, like,
After you make a lot,
Google,
if you,
Google the death
after you,
penalty, and you have
yeah.
death penalty, abolish the death penalty.org, and then you have Oklahoma County.
Well, I was going to say you have to drive through the state of Texas, and
Yeah,
if you make it out of there alive, then yeah, you can make it to Oklahoma, but then you're dead.
then you're done. Yeah, then it's over.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it had been a while since I have read that. But I'm telling you, Jack, you got to go listen to my. I know you got so many more important things to do, but you got to go.
I wouldn't say important. They're just on the plate, and I need a bigger plate. That's what I need. Can we stretch it? Can we make the work week like 10 days? I'm going to get killed now, right?
Shut up.
I know. That's what I'm saying,
There, it's okay, you guys. I just muted him. He can't talk now. Yes, I can. I can do that now. I didn't know. Careful, Jack. I can mute you.
I know that. You just lit me up. The Office. Or not The Office, but the Suits. I've been lit up. You remember? Did you ever watch Suits?
Oh gosh, so long ago. I don't even remember. Oh my God. So long ago. Hello? You're not muted.
Hello?
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm not muted. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Okay.
I learned my lesson. Trust me, I'm done.
Kit the cat, I think we are calling her, says there is some negative shit in Furman's background. Oh, yes, there is.
No doubt.
And then she also says, or he says, the dog says, there is some negative shit in my background. Oh, well, mine too. Yeah, mine too. I teased Cherie last night because I use a People Finder kind of site. It's not People Finder, but I pay money to, be able to get information about people, more than just basic. And she's like, "Oh God." I said, no.
We know that when True People Finder, that Google app, when it first came out, it was actually pretty good, but I think it's changed now.
This is because you always Google and you get, you find background, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, sweet. And then you go to it. Well, then you find out you got to pay. Well, eventually, once I got involved in Daniel's case, I just paid. I just thought, you know what? And I use it. I use it probably at least once a day, if not more. And I don't know. I mean, I can't think of anything that I've passed on to anyone that wasn't, found to be true or helpful or useful, at least.
Readily available.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was worth the money,
the newspapers.com is a really, really great tool too.
Yep. I know that. Yep. So, I'm curious, Mose, why are you going to piss yourself? You should put on a Depends or something.
Yeah. You can take a bathroom break, but it'd be okay.
It's fine. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's nice having you in the chat, Mose. Miss you. I hope you guys are doing well. But so yeah, but anyway, Mark Furman has written some other books. He's done a book, and I haven't read any others, but this one, in fact, I'm still not even done with this one. But he has written, he wrote a book about Martha Moxley's case, and I can't remember all of them, but I found this one to be so good and simple to read that, I really am anxious to read some more of his books. I've got a lot of other books I need to read first. Cherie has sent me a book called Bob Macy. It's his autobiography. I have also am in the middle of the history of Oklahoma from before the run up into the I want to say the early 2000s. And then I'm in the middle of listening to one that Kay sent me called, what is that called? The Judge's List by John Grisham, and it's on Audible. Oh, and then Cherie and I started listening to something else on Audible a couple of weeks ago. What was that, Cherie? I don't remember now, but I'm reading like 5 different books right now.
The Cadaver King and the Country Dentist,
Oh,
I think, by
yes.
Bradley Balco.
Yes. And that's the one that talks about that Indeed and Without Doubt dude, West.
Michael West.
Dr. Michael Vest.
Michael West. Oh, Vest. Yes, Michael Vest. Yeah. So yeah, we started that one a couple of weeks ago and have not been able to get back to that one yet. So my literary abilities are astounding right now.
It sounds to me like that Furman's a much better author than he was a cop.
I think so. I think that might be safe to say. And you know
I
what?
read the. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
just was going to say I read the Martha Moxley book a long time ago. It was pretty good.
Oh, I bet. Yeah,
I don't
really
know that.
want to read it.
I don't know that case.
Oh, it's old. What was that in the 70s? Martha Moxley was killed basically in her yard. What was that in?
It was nearby Kennedy, one of the Kennedy family was
lived
nearby.
next door to, lived next door to the
Oh,
Kennedy
that
family.
girl. Oh God, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I knew that name sounded familiar. I'm like, what? I never read that.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now.
And then there's another one that I think is based possibly around the LAPD, possibly, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know. Actually, I can just tell you right now. Murder in Brentwood. Yeah, so there you go. Murder in Spokane and Murder in Greenwich. So
Wow.
I don't know what the Spokane one is. I haven't looked at that, but the Murder in Brentwood, of course, is which I'm kind of surprised he wrote. So I really am really anxious to read that because, obviously that's O.J. Simpson. So which book is it that you want, Mose? I just named off a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Sure did. Yeah. And then I think that Cherie just bought another book yesterday or the day before, and it's a book that I can't even remember what it's about right now because
Hidden Victims. It was about the death penalty and the families.
Yes, the families of death penalty people who have been executed. Yes. So I don't remember reading this many books in high school. So I really need to get on track and do one at a time, I think.
Only what I was forced to read. Well, I mean, I did like sci-fi. I was a huge sci-fi kind of thing, science fiction, fantasy. God, Isaac Asimov. I mean, there's a bunch of,
Yeah.
The Murder in Spokane. It's about a serial killer.
Oh, okay.
And 2000, he wrote it in 2001.
Okay. Are you talking about the Murder in Greenwich? Murder in Greenwich, Mose?
No.
Is that the one that he's talking?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, anyway, and maybe I'll put a link to those in there in the thing too, so that people could. There's a lot of links just in the damn books we've talked about that I could share. So, anyway, but we're gonna go ahead and get out of here for tonight. But next week we're gonna talk about Mark Andrew Fowler, and I don't know if you're even a little bit emotional like me, you might want to have a Kleenex handy, or I don't know. We'll see what happens. But then that'll be a much better lead into Robert Lee Miller. So if there's no other questions, comments, or concerns or suggestions, we're going to go ahead and take off. And everybody that was in chat tonight and commented questions and made us laugh or chuckle, thank you so much, because we really do enjoy it and appreciate it. And so everybody else, Jack, Cherie, Alice, want to say goodbye or have any comments you want to make? Or
We got, go ahead, Alice. You go first.
No, just to say thank you everyone for and joining us, and it's great to be back on the panel, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
And then I've got to say thanks to Alice again. I'm so glad she's back and doing better. And then a few podcasts coming up with Becca and Brendan Talks, I think, is on Friday. And then, of course, Reading with Uncle Ken on Saturday, open mic on Sunday. There we go. Thanks for coming, everyone.
All right. We will see you guys all next week on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central.
Woo-hoo.
Peace out.